today we're going to be covering crowdfunding for sport and what that involves for your clubs and your organisations. How to crowdfund successfully, so looking at the key stages to success, so that is planning, creating and running a successful campaign. We've also been joined by Nadine from Sport England, who's going to talk through the additional funding that we have available from Sport England on our platform that is available to sports organisations to obviously apply for. We've got 2 funds from Sport England that we're going to be looking at today. Towards the end of the webinar, we've also been joined by Lee, who is a successful past project owner. So he's had a successful crowdfunding campaign recently launched and closed on our platform. We'll talk to him about his experience. He was also lucky enough to receive funding from Sport England, so we can get a real insight into his experience of what's involved in securing those pledges. Some of us are still working from home. So please do bear with us if you hear any unexpected interruptions. There might be doorbells ringing, for example, or dogs barking. Please just do bear with us if there are any interruptions. If you find that your internet drops out or we freeze, there's technical glitches with the webinar, you can just press the refresh button up in your browser and that should bring you straight back into the live room. We will also I will be putting links to the resources that we go over in the webinar into the chat box. So the chat box will be on the right hand of your screen. That is where you can also type in any questions that you have for us throughout the course of the session. We've got a Q&A at the end with myself, Nadine and Lee, so we will be on hand to answer as many of those questions as we can. We have allowed 30 minutes for this session. That does include that Q&A. We might run over a little bit just depending on how many questions we get coming through. One of the questions we often get asked is if there will be a recording. Yes, we do record this session. Everybody that has signed up will have a follow-up email, which will contain, again, those links to the resources, but a replay to today's session as well. So as we are only kind of allowing about half an hour for this, without further ado, it would be brilliant if we could welcome Nadine, please, to talk about the funds. Nadine, are you there?
Hi Zoe, hi everyone.
Hi Nadine, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for joining us today. Would you be able to talk us through the 2 separate funds? So there's a Return to Play Active Together, isn't there? And then the Places and Spaces Fund as well. If you could let those attending today just know the difference between the 2 of those and the kind of eligibility and criteria for those as well, that would be really great. Thank you.
Absolutely. So we have 2 funds available through Crowdfunder, as Zoe mentioned. So our first fund is our Return to Play Active Together Fund, which has a budget of 7.5 million. And it was launched in May 2020 as sort of a response to the pandemic. And now as we're sort of learning to live with COVID, it's about supporting sports clubs and organisations return to play in usual activity. So with that, campaigns can be to pay for adjustments due to social distancing measures or just for general maintenance or general needs, sort of like equipment, things like that. And with this fund, so far we have supported over 550 successful campaigns. So it's been really successful and there is plenty of budget available. So we welcome lots of applications. And our other fund is our Places and Spaces Fund. So with this fund, we have a budget of 3.5 million for this one. And a key focus of the Places and Spaces Fund is the upcoming Commonwealth Games this year. And this is a capital fund. So it's aimed at clubs and organisations that are looking to unite their local community through sport, and they might be looking to create, redevelop or enhance existing facilities as part of that. So it's just about getting people active and kind of looking forward to the games and using that as a good excuse. With both of our funds, there is match funding available up to 50%, and that's up to a maximum value of £10,000. And again, we appreciate that crowdfunding might be a new experience for lots of people. So there's plenty of resources available through the Crowdfunder website, and Crowdfunder have lots of wonderful wraparound support. So do definitely make use of those. And I'll hand back over to Zoe, who will explain the process in a bit more detail.
Thank you so much. That's really helpful. We're going to take a little look actually at a slide now. Nadine did just point out kind of the amount of money available. It's huge sums of money to be distributed through this kind of process of sports clubs crowdfunding. So there really is a lot of opportunity to actually access some of this money. So £7.5 million for the Return to Play Active Together Fund, £3.5 million available for places and spaces. And as Nadine pointed out, it's up to £10,000 per project. Specifically, £10,000 per project, and that's up to 50% maximum for your initial target. So for example, if your target was £20,000, you could be eligible for 50% of that from Sport England, which would be that £10,000 maximum pledge. There are pledge criteria that you need to be aware of when you're crowdfunding and you are accessing these additional funds. So the whole purpose of working in partnership with Sport England is actually to encourage sports clubs to really embrace the process of crowdfunding as well, really uniting with their community in order to spread the word and create that kind of network and their buzz around the project. Works really well for sports clubs. So what you would do is you would apply for your extra funding, ideally in the 10th stage of your project before you have actually launched. That enables enough time for Sport England to view your project, to kind of assess it, give you any improvement guides whereby they would ask you to potentially add things to your page to be able to be approved. Once you have been approved by Sport England, you will have a pledge waiting to go onto your page. You have been approved and you'll have a pledge promise. What you would then need to do is you have to start crowdfunding. So you'd go live, you'd launch your project, and you need to raise 25% of your initial target from your crowd. So this is part of the crowdfunding exercise. You raise the first 25% of your target, then you have essentially secured the pledge coming onto your page. Okay, so that would mean that now Sport England would become a supporter and they would pledge that agreed amount onto your page. Then the idea is you use that for momentum to then reach back out to your crowd and keep crowdfunding to make up the shortfall so that you hit your 100% target. We've mentioned in these webinars a few times about the importance of adding things like updates to your page. Updates are a really key way to connect to your audience and connect to your supporters. You want to, as soon as you know that you've been approved for that extra funding, update your supporters, that 25% of, the people that have helped you to reach that 25%, let them know you've got this funding coming and that you need to hit your target in order to secure it. So once you've reached 100% of your target, you have secured all the money raised, including those additional funds, and that will be paid out to you when your crowdfunder closes. You do also have the option of setting a stretch target, which would enable you to continue having donations and pledges made to your page as long as your crowdfunder is live. So that's above and beyond your initial target. So that's where you might be able to overfund your project. One thing just to bear in mind in terms of your 25% of your initial target raise, which is that milestone to actually have the money land on your page, is there are supporter number requirements as well. So you can see in the table here that if your target is up to £5,000, you'd need to raise 25% of that from 25 unique supporters. I'll go over the unique supporter part in a moment. Beyond that, between anything past £5,000 and up to 10,000, you'd be looking at 50 unique supporters, all the way up to, if your target is over £15,000, you'd be looking at 100 unique supporters. By unique supporter, we are referring to somebody who has a unique banking footprint and email address and contact details. So for example, you might have a couple with a shared bank account and they have shared bank account cards. That will be classed as one person because the banking footprint is the same. However, if you have a household where 4 people have their own cards and they have their own email addresses, you want to encourage that household to pledge as 4 individuals, because that will help to make sure that your supporter numbers are hitting the required milestones to release that pledge. We'll go over more of that kind of in detail as part of the learning course, and all those amazing resources that Nadine spoke about will actually make sure that you have access to all of those whilst crowdfunding. So the actual process of crowdfunding, it would be really good if we can now actually just get an idea of what's actually involved in crowdfunding in particular. So the next stage we'll be looking at what's involved in the actual process of crowdfunding, and then we'll come back and have we'll have a chat with Lee as well about his experience.
Hello everyone. So how does crowdfunding work, and what is it? Well, crowdfunding is a great way to raise money and awareness for your organisation by engaging with your community. What you're going to do is create a crowdfunding page on our online platform. And don't worry if you're not too tech savvy, it's very easy to use, very user friendly. You're going to create a page that looks something like this one on the right hand side, and then you're going to promote that campaign to your crowd and your community, and they'll then make pledges and donations on your page, and that's how you get funded. So it's really important to make an engaging page. It needs to target the whole community. So try not to fall into that trap of just writing something that's geared towards your club members, because they're most likely going to be engaging with you already. So you really want to reaching out to the wider audience, potentially people who aren't already connected to your sport or your club, and really make the most of crowdfunding and create that awareness of your organisation. So when you're creating your page, what we always recommend is start with some key headlines and organise the content into a very readable order. So if you start with the headline of who you are and outline who you are as a club, your impact in the community, and why you're crowdfunding. So for a lot of you, it will still be the effects of that COVID has had on your organisation, but equally some people are now starting to get over that, and it may be a completely different type of project. So it's important that you just explain what you're actually crowdfunding for, and also how you plan to spend the money. So as a potential supporter, you would be much more likely to pledge or donate to a campaign if you can see the direct impact that your financial contribution will make. Once you have all that information collated, it's time to make your page just look more engaging, more appealing. And the best way to do that is with images and videos. So you can add images in between to the page, in between the text, to break up those blocks of text that you should have. And it also helps to summarise and reflect the key elements of your campaign and show the personality of your club. So what also helps with that, as well as images, is a short video. So 1 to 2 minutes is absolutely plenty. You just want to grab the audience's attention and tell them in a nutshell what your project is all about. And it gives that opportunity to actually connect and engage with the viewers of your page. So it's really important to make sure that you're happy with your page before you go live, but also before applying for the extra funding. So whenever you apply for your extra funding, which you'll do via your project dashboard, the relevant sports organisation will review your page and give you some feedback potentially, and just make sure your page has got everything on it that it needs to be a successful campaign, and before deciding whether to give you a pledge for extra funding or not. Now, Crowdfunder is the UK's top rewards-based crowdfunding platform, as opposed to just purely donations only. So, and really, it's on top of the standard donation that you'd perhaps obviously associate with traditional fundraising. You add these rewards to take your campaign to the next level. So rewards tend to encourage larger and more pledges and enable you to attract pledges from outside your network. So you want to get really inventive and creative with your rewards as much as you can. So try to offer a range of rewards targeted at different audiences. So your members might be tempted by, say, a one-to-one coaching session, or you could offer sponsorship or advertising space to large donors. And then you want to think about those in the wider community who don't necessarily have a connection with your club already, but you want to think about how you can get them to pledge. So what you can do is speak with local businesses who may want to support your campaign. Rather than a financial contribution, or in some cases as well as, they can offer products or services to use as rewards. And offering these at a slight discount means that anyone in the area will be keen to make a pledge to grab themselves a bargain, an exclusive offer. So on the page here, you can see we've got some great examples of rewards that we've seen, such as on the right-hand side there, we've got 2 hours of conversational Greek lessons. In the middle at the bottom, we've got a fish and chips voucher. And then up at the top left, we've got Power Auto's MOT voucher. So you can see there's a bit of things that are totally unrelated to sport, but that is making it appealing much to a much wider audience. Now, another great thing that you can do with a sports crowdfunding campaign is to use our multiplier feature. It's really effective for sports clubs. It allows people to essentially fundraise on behalf of your project. So perhaps you might have some individuals that want to do something special to raise funds for the club, like a sponsored swim or run a marathon. Or perhaps you have different teams or squads within your club who fancy a bit of competition to see who can raise the most or cycle the furthest or run the furthest. It's a great way to get more people involved in promoting the campaign and tapping into their personal networks, so reaching an even wider audience, and it can add a great competitive element to a campaign too. So you can see this example on the screen now was run by Spencer Lacrosse Club in 2021, and they had 44 fundraisers, so 44 individuals, each with their own fundraising page, and all the money that they raise via there feeds into the main project page. So it's a really great way to get people truly engaged with your fundraising efforts. So crowdfunding works and sports go really hand in hand very well. Sports crowdfund really well. So you can see here there's a selection of different types of projects, and that's just a very small handful. So they range from speed skating to swimming to gymnastics. Sports clubs are often at the heart of the community, and by definition you have a group of potentially competitive people who directly benefit from the project. So whatever sport it might be, it crowdfunds really well, and you really want to have that common goal in mind, and all crowdfund together. One of the next steps you can take, the most important steps, is to use our online learning facility. So we've got a free online course specifically geared for crowdfunding sports clubs, and that will give you even more detail behind the basics that I've just gone over now, telling you how to create the perfect page. There's lots of tips on how to actually run your crowdfunder and pull it together. So definitely go on and do that online learning course after this webinar, and then go on to help create your perfect page and apply for the funding. So best of luck to you all.
Oh, hopefully you've all found that quite informative. That's a kind of whistle-stop tour of crowdfunding and what's involved. I always find it really useful actually to speak to somebody who's done it before. So what we always recommend as well when you're planning your crowdfunder is that you go onto the platform, use the explore function, which is just at the top of the website, and you can search for your particular sport. You can search for location, so people around you that have done something similar. Alternatively, I've shared a link to the extra funding part of our website. If you actually go in and click on any of the funds that you're interested in particular for today, you've got the Sport England funds. At the bottom of each of those funder partner pages, you will see all of the projects that have been supported by those funding partners. Take a look at their pages, see how they've constructed them, look at the rewards on offer, because you can see that actually those are the pages and the types of projects that have been approved. So take a look for some inspiration as well. But as I said, it's always good to hear from people that have done it before. So Lee, if you are there, it'd be brilliant if you could join us and we can hear about your experience.
Good afternoon, Zoe. How are you doing? Good afternoon, everybody.
Hiya, how are you doing? You all right?
Very well, thank you. Very well.
Good, good. Well, as everyone can see, I've put a little slide together here just about your your crowdfunder, the Keeping Our Club Alive. So this was a kind of in response to COVID, wasn't it? Essentially, this project. You raised just under £27,000. I am a little bit sad that you didn't drum up that one last pound to get you to 27,000.
Actually, last meeting, someone passed me £1 over the table to make it 27.
Oh,
so yeah,
and that's really impressive. 133 supporters, unique supporters as well. So you could well have had more people pledging, but in terms of those unique supporters, that's 133 in 76 days. So I think for everyone here, it'd be great if you could tell us a little bit about your project, please, Lee.
Okay, well, originally the idea started about 3 years ago, post-COVID, well, before COVID, should I say. We knew that we're a scuba diving club. We teach the local community. We teach people with DFA, diving for all, people with mental health issues, people with disabilities, young offenders trying to get back on the straight and narrow. We need a lot of kit to do that, because our kit is tested every year. Costs us quite a lot of money to keep it maintained and tested. And we also have a RIB, club boat. Now, our club currently is about 65 members, and the process is you come in, do a try dive, you join our club, learn to dive, and ultimately we get you out into the sea to see the shipwrecks, marine life, learn about the environment that we're all responsible for. But then things are expensive, and we only survive by way of membership subs every year. So I was daft enough, shall I say, to put my hand up and say, I'll do this 3 years ago. And I wrote this funding plan that I've written before in a commercial environment. But we had the door shut in our face quite a number of times. And it was the local council, the funding person there, that said, well, have you looked at Crowdfunder? And here's where we started, really.
Amazing. So essentially you were kind of signposted to crowdfunding actually by your local authority, which is really interesting because we do work with local authorities as well. So that's great that we're kind of on their radar. What did you find most difficult, if anything, about the process of crowdfunding?
Well, in fairness, to be fair, the people within crowdfunding, and I must say it was you actually, Zoe, have been superb from day one. So I basically took the funding plan that we created pre-COVID and placed it onto the website, which in the crowdfunding page, which is actually really straightforward and easy to use. And obviously then when you've done the plan online and you submit it to go live, it then gives you the options of what other funds are available, like Sport England, Back to Play, post-COVID. And obviously you apply, the application for that's quite simple, straightforward. I mean, literally the answers are already in your funding plan already. So I applied for Sport England and they said no. Initially they said no, but for me, no stands for next opportunity. And I wrote back and said, then I know, tell me why not. And this is, I think this is a really important thing. You're going to get told no, you're going to get the door shut in your face, but go back and ask why. I mean, failure for me is really, really important. If we don't fail, we don't know how to succeed. And I went back and said, no, I know, tell me why not. And to refer to them, they came back and said, bang, 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 quite a few points, actually. One of them was the video was 6 minutes long. And that was down to our chairman at the time having a long waffle about what we needed. And they said that needs cutting way down to 2 to 3 minutes. And actually, we had quite a lot of information there about the club, the history of the club, which is, it's 42 years old. And we thought, actually, the history was really important. In fairness, it was too much information. We just need this little paragraph. Basically, you need to keep it short and sweet, cover each point, but keep it short and sweet. Straight to the point. We found our funding plan was really waffling quite a lot. That was nonsense and taking up unnecessary space, really.
That's really, I tell you what, you've hit some really key points there. I'm just going to kind of bring it back to the people that are in the room today. So you might not always get approved straight away for the Sport England funding. It's always advisable to put in an application when you feel you're at a stage that you are ready to go live. Put in that application. If you do get declined that application, Sport England are really, really receptive to helping you to improve your page and improve your campaign to get you approved. So that's kind of the journey that you guys went on, wasn't it? You had lots of conversations with Sport England, and they kind of supported you through what the requirements were and the amendments that you can make to your page. And you hit the nail on the head. You need to make sure, or clubs need to make sure, that when they're putting that page together, it's little bite-sized pieces of really digestible information. People are short on time these days, aren't they? So if you view your page in the same way that somebody might kind of scroll through social media, a short video surmising kind of who you are and what you're doing, what you need the money for, and then really engaging content, a heading, a paragraph, an image, you know, in that kind of format, really does keep people engaged throughout the whole of your page. And actually, I've just shared a link to your page into the chat box for people to go and have a look at. Through that process of working with ourselves and Sport England, your page is brilliant. Like, it's really, really good now, isn't it? So you did really well. And
well, I took the feedback really well. I mean, a very, very important point also is that, you know, end of the day, it's short and sweet, but obviously I think that really brings it out is the headers we made. I mean, obviously I'm very good with Photoshop anyway, but the headers broke it up nice and neatly into the actual, you know, like I said before, make it stand out. And one other thing that's really, really important that sometimes we often forget, when the Crowdfunder and Sports England pages, they give you all the marketing collateral, all the hashtags that you need, and we ran that on basically Facebook, Insta, TikTok, you name it. Every social platform we get our hands on, we shared all them hashtags out so that people crowdfunding would see what we were doing. And you know what? We started this page in my eyes now, I thought early December, what a really crazy time to launch a crowdfunding page. You know, 2 months of the week of the month were shut down, and then January, everyone's getting the credit card bills, and no one wants to pay anything, you know, anybody anything from a donation point of view. Yeah. And I think also, just to be fair, because our page was very, very proactive, and the group as a whole were really proactive, we managed to get our deadline extended. And that's another thing that people should pay attention to, that if you are, you know, if it is proactive and people are investing into your idea, crowdfunding will, and Sport England will, agree to extend it, but only for short periods of time. If it's doing nothing, it's not making any progress, then obviously they're not too keen on doing that. So the deadline you set can be extended.
That's right. And actually, there's a new function on Crowdfunder, the website itself, where project owners have the ability to do that for their own projects. But like you say, Lee, it's what we always talk about is the U of crowdfunding. There's a U shape. So people get all excited when you first launch because you've done amazing promotion. They want to get behind you, and then kind of the message kind of trails off a little bit unless you can really keep that momentum up for the whole period of the crowdfunder. And you will possibly experience a bit of a lull, which is the bottom of the U shape. And then as you're about to close, kind of people get excited again because they can see you might be reaching your target and they want to get behind you. So just be mindful, everybody that's with us today, that by extending your projects without a really solid plan of activity in place, you might just increase the bottom of the U. You might just increase the lull period, which is not what you're trying to achieve. So there is that possibility, absolutely. You guys were really proactive and it worked for you. The other thing to bear in mind is when the timing of launching your crowdfunder, like you said, kind of December, January is quite tricky. But what a good thing to bear in mind is if you can, try and have your live crowdfunder run over 2 paydays, if possible, that kind of 4 to 5 weeks that encompasses 2 paydays, because then at least you've got 2 opportunities where people might have a bit of disposable income to actually send some money your way. You guys also had some lovely rewards as well on your page. How did you go about sourcing these?
We tapped into all of, obviously, members of our club age range from 8 years to 76. Basically, I asked everyone to tap into every single person they knew. We had tattoo vouchers, we had car valeting, we had obviously all stuff diving related. I mean, we even put with the idea of sponsoring a cylinder, actually having your company name on a cylinder for 12 months. So we obviously have someone in the club who could do vinyl printing. So they would print the logo out. So you could donate £50 towards our fund, and we'd give you 12-month sponsorship on a cylinder that we'd be using in the pool week in, week out when people come in for try dives or training. And that was a really good idea. And well, it's literally just a case of there's no shame. Just go and ask. I mean, not only that, if you're asking on the high street, they're getting free promotion. So they're actually quite excited to be involved in it. If they're going to give you 10% discount, they're delighted because you're doing all the marketing for them.
Yeah, exactly right. And it's all about building that presence of yourself in the community, isn't it? This is what we're doing. how can you help us? Let's work together. It's about collaboration, that kind of cross promotion, things that work out to be mutually beneficial, not only for you and the club, but like you say, you know, businesses on the high street, for example, or even if some of your club members have got a business that they think, actually, it'd be a really good opportunity for me to get a bit of marketing if I donate this, or yeah, that's brilliant. It was really lovely to see as well. Did you find quite often we talk about the other benefits of crowdfunding? So forget the financial raise for a moment. Would you say that you and the club have experienced other benefits to your crowdfunder, whether that's increased awareness of what you do, more club members joining?
We seem to have had a bit of an increase in membership recently. We got an intake of membership. We take new students in every 4 months, because obviously it takes several weeks, 8 weeks, from getting from start to finishing the qualifications. We've seen Wigan Council, which obviously where we are, they seem to have latched on a lot more than they were previously. They said we are the biggest and fastest crowdfunding group in their particular town, which obviously was great. One other thing also we forgot to mention before, I mentioned about the funding manager at Wigan Council. Most councils do have their own little crowdfunding pot that they will invest into your fund. Same again, you have to apply for it. And I think they invested £1,000 into our pot. And there was something like you had to have 25 unique supporters of your own. As soon as we got that trigger, they put £1,000 straight away into that. But what I also wanted to say on that, one other thing I forgot to say before was, what I found really, I knew we'd made it at £6,250. I know that's a long way from what it says on the screen there. But when Sport England set our objectives by way of 25% of your fund has to be met by yourselves, for we'll even give you, show the £10,000 on screen. But you also need 100 supporters. When you know you've got young children of 8 years of age trying to donate £1 to get from 98, 99, 100 supporters, and it goes from literally 6,800 to £16,800 overnight, your morale as a whole team and everybody involved in all of that just goes through the roof. And then you're on your way. It just spirals out of, it just blows away, really.
Absolutely. And again, that kind of comes down to that crucial timing of, if you are launching your crowdfunder already having been approved from Sport England, you know that when you hit those first milestones, so the 25% from however many unique supporters, that money will be applied to your page. And it just gives that absolute boost, like you say, for momentum and to rally your crowd. You can reach back out with updates into social media. If you are applying kind of later on into the live process, you might actually find that it doesn't give that as much of a catalyst as it could do had you been approved a little bit earlier on. So bear in mind the timing of when you're putting that application in. I think it's really crucial to kind of use that additional pledge as a real boost to get you over your target. Can
I say one more? Can I have one more thing as well? A really important thing I forgot to mention. We needed a new boat for our club. We still do. Then decisions are ongoing. A new boat for our club is about £46,000. And when I originally set up the crowdfunding page, in all honesty, I actually put £46,000 on the page because that's what we were told we needed. You have to be really realistic because some of these organisations that do want to support you are going to put objectives in place. And if you don't reach your target, you may lose any pledges that are coming your way from organisations like that. So you have to be really realistic in what you want to achieve. And, there's always another day. And like I say, we raised nearly £1 short of £27,000 there. And thankfully, off screen, we also raised a further £3,000. So we're at actually £30,000 overall in our funding campaign. But I think setting realistic targets is really, really important.
Yeah, you're completely right. We advise kind of in our general webinars and when we speak to people, that we advise being realistic about what's kind of the minimum that you might need to make whatever you're trying to do happen, make your project happen, but also the amount of people that you might need to reach in order to make, those donations come in. But you can also, what we see quite often with sports clubs and community clubs especially, is multiple crowdfunders. So for in instance with you guys, Lee, you've raised that £30,000 that I'm sure will go well on its way to doing something for the club, but you might actually come back to the platform at some point and say, okay, we've managed to invest the money we raised previous into this. Now we're going to try and crowdfund towards, the next phase of whatever the project might be. You want to leave enough time so that you can have a bit of a break, because it's quite a big undertaking. And obviously the people that you're reaching out to, so your crowd, have a bit of a break. But there's nothing to say that you can't run multiple crowdfunders, especially if what you're doing I'm just thinking of sports clubs, maybe they're doing some redevelopment, for example, and it actually is going to happen in phases. You know, the building works might happen in kind of phases over a period of time. You potentially could run multiple crowdfunders. When it comes to the extra funding, though, obviously there's that issue of if you're still fundraising for the exact same project, that might negate obviously having those additional funding again. But if it's for different areas of the project, then that's a discussion to have with our funding partners as well. I will put their email address into the chat box. People are more than welcome to get in touch with them directly if they want to speak about their particular project. I think for now, as we've only run over by 5 minutes, we've actually done really well. If
considering it's me.
no, I like speaking to you, Lily. You've got lots of information, which is really, really priceless for people that are here. Have you got, what would be your kind of one takeaway piece of advice that you could give somebody who's planning on crowdfunding?
Don't have any shame and keep knocking on doors. Don't leave any stones unturned. One of our club members, to be fair, criticised me for posting constantly on one of our diving club forum pages. He said, "Oh, you might rub people's faces at it." Well, so be it. We've got an objective to try and reach, and at the day, we've got a community we're trying to serve, and we all enjoy what we do. So don't be ashamed knocking on doors. Don't be ashamed to keep posting the same thing out every day. Campaigning, marketing, all the social networks. Use the hashtags; it really does pick it up. And basically, when someone tells you no, ask them why. Especially like Sport England, like I say, ask them why. They might know, why not? And then, to be fair, they come back and give me all these bullet points. And yeah, we were able to change it from a Friday to a Monday, Zoe. We did it really quickly. We even got the video redone, shortened, and went back on Monday morning. I got an email saying success, well done, fantastic. So just have to persevere and explore every opportunity you can, really.
Brilliant, thank you. I just thought I'd just quickly add to that as well. In terms of reaching out to people, there are kind of 3 key ways in which people can help you. I'm just thinking about the crowd now. So if somebody can't, financially give anything, it's tough times at the minute, isn't it? The cost of living is getting a lot harder. So you might find that people can't financially donate, but they could share on their social media platforms. They might be part of a business that has a newsletter that goes out. They might feature you. They might, write something on the internet about you, a blog, whatever it might be. And also they might be able to offer you a reward. So there's kind of three different avenues that people can help you with there. So that's the financial contribution, obviously their network and their reach, so tapping into their own networks, and also if they can offer a reward to you, a gift, gift a reward or offer a discount on something that you can actually put on your page. Ideally, they'll do all 3, but there are different ways that people can support you. So there's different things you can ask for. If it's a no from one of them, you've got 2 other options there that they might be able to help with. Okay, right. I'm just thinking if we've got a few questions that have come through that I've seen in the chat box. So if we could welcome Nadine back on as well, please. Hi, how are you doing? And let's see if we can get through some of these questions. I just see if any others. Right, we're all right. No others have come through. So this is a question from Sandy. If you've received funding through Sports England COVID-19, so the return to play, the small grants fund, the COVID-19 return to play small grants fund, would Sports England still be prepared to match fund, etc., through the crowdfunder campaigns available?
Yeah, so absolutely, providing it's not for the same expenditure that you received funding for the first time. So, for example, you could have received a fund to cover your sort of running costs and overhead costs at the start of the pandemic. And it might be the case that you're struggling now. So absolutely, you could do a campaign to cover the funds that you need now.
Amazing, thank you. This one's coming from Remco. How large is your community? How many funders does your platform have? This one's a bit of a kind of, there can be a slight misconception with crowdfunding as a whole that kind of once your page is on the crowdfunding platform, that there is a community that will just gravitate to your page and to the platform just to see kind of what projects are there and to donate. Essentially, we hold onto your page and we are kind of, a holding site, if you like, for your networks to come and find your page. So you need to be able to do the legwork. there will be people who may well browse the crowdfunding website, but they will be minimal. The idea is that you set up your page on there, and then you will have a URL to your page, and it's kind of your crowdfunding exercise to then go out to your networks and bring them to the site. As Lee mentioned, if you are using hashtags and you're tagging in Crowdfunder UK, for example, Sport England, when you're doing all of your social media posts, once that creates some traction, you will then be on the radar for Sport England and ourselves, and you may well get retweets, or you may well get a little shout out from both of those kind of organizations. But essentially, there won't be a huge community that are just coming to look at your page unless you have brought them there. I hope that helps. Another question here from, bear with me. Okay, this is from Remco again. Could companies from the Netherlands also start a campaign? In terms of crowdfunding, you would need to have a UK bank account in order to set up a crowdfunding campaign with Crowdfunder UK. In terms of the extra funding, my understanding is it needs to be spent within the UK. Is that correct, Nadine? Yeah.
Yeah, so our funds are primarily for the benefit of people living and residing in England.
Okay, perfect. So I guess the ultimate answer there is, yes, you could set up a crowdfunder. If you have a UK bank account, you wouldn't necessarily be eligible for the extra funding that we have on our platform, depending on what the funders are. We do have over 70 of them, so you can check, but the majority are UK based. Another one here, what type of crowdfunding do you support? So loans, donations, shares, etc. Donations, absolutely, we support. Rewards-based crowdfunding, we support. We're the biggest rewards-based crowdfunding platform in the UK. We don't support loans, and we don't support equity shares. We can support community shares. However, if you are offering up equity in a business, for example, as a reward, then that's not something that we could support. There are other platforms out there that do operate in that way, but just not Crowdfunder UK. And this is from Denise. Does the multiplier add towards the number of individual donors? Yes, it does, essentially. But the same rules apply in terms of those unique supporters. So if one person is giving to that multiplier on multiple times, I've seen multiple quite a lot, they are still going to be classed as one. So yes, you can, but just still bear in mind those supporter numbers. They all do need to be unique supporters. This one come in from Sarah or Sarah. Are there any projects that are off limits? Do you have to fit a criteria? We're a private members club that will that go against us? Nadine, I think that's one for you in terms of the criteria for the funds.
Yeah, so providing that if it's one that comes into Return to Play Active Together, providing that it's in response to the COVID pandemic, that would make it eligible. In terms of places and spaces, so one thing I did forget to mention earlier, at the moment it's only available for clubs and organisations in the West Midlands, but we are hoping to roll that out soon nationally. So in terms of places and spaces, it would need to be for a capital project, and you would need to be based in the West Midlands area. In terms of being a private members club, at the moment, I believe that won't make you eligible, as it's for the benefit of the community and not for, not-for-profit organisations. But if I am wrong on that, I will double check and we can definitely get back to you. But at the moment, I think you would be ineligible for our funds.
Thank you. I'm just I just had some links queued up to share into the chat box. I'm now deleting these very, very swiftly so that I can put in the email address for Sport England. So if anyone does have a particular inquiry about their specific organisation, their specific project, and whether it might be eligible before they kind of want to embark on the application process, then they can drop an email to directly to Sport England, and you can have that conversation with them. So I'll just pop that into the chat box. The other thing as well, just to bear in mind, is we touched upon it a little bit in the next stages. So I'm just going to put some links in here. It covers things like the fees that are attached to crowdfunding, for example, the Help Centre, which is a really great resource. It's got loads of kind of how-to guides and troubleshooting. We have a coaching hub, which basically has loads of information. So Social Media Hub is on there as well, and it has assets to be able to promote your crowdfunder. The Coaching Hub is where you would have all of your Learn resources and loads of amazing information to walk you through the process of crowdfunding. And then also a link to the drop-ins and webinars that we host. So we do sport-specific ones. We also have a drop-in every week on a Tuesday. Again, it's free. You can come along and ask any questions specific to your project and your crowdfunding campaign. And then we have the generic kind of Learn webinars as well each month. So let me just pop all of these links in here for you. Amanda, who's just joined us, you've said you missed most of it. Are you recording it? Yes, absolutely. This is all being recorded and we will send it around in a follow-up email as soon as we can. So I think, and I don't think we've had any other questions coming in. I think that's covered everything, Nadine. Thank you so much for joining us today. We've lost Lee. Lee's gone, but I think he's given some brilliant advice to people as well today. So well done, Lee. And thank you very much, Nadine, for joining us.
No problem. Thanks, Zoe, and thanks everyone.
Enjoy the rest of your day, everyone. Thank you very much.